think you're gonna probably have to talk
Yeah.
a little bit louder because the mic's right up there.
Maybe should I go over there?
Yeah, maybe if you want to sit more up here. Great.
Can everyone online hear me well? All right. Thanks for putting up with the technical issues and my tardiness. And it's good to be here in person with everyone. So we're going to call this meeting of Dunn County's Traffic Safety and Emergency Medical Services Committee meeting to order. We will move to the approval of the June 21st minutes and need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Second. Any comment, additions, subtractions to the minutes? All in favor of approving the minutes from June 21st, say aye. 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 Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Are there any public comments that we know of?
I'm working.
Okay, we'll go to the reports. Traffic Safety Committee. Chad Hines, you're up first.
All right, I'll go through what we have for construction going on right now, on 94 with the SWEP. They're looking at traffic switch back to the existing westbound lanes on 94, tentatively the week of October 7th or the 14th. They're paving the concrete today for the new way in motion out there, so, get that part done. Then they'll work on removing the median widening, should take a couple weeks. SWAT building, they're saying should be done around November 1st with the project completion around November 22nd. 390th Street, Rudiger Road, our local bridge project, Wilson Creek Bridge, looking to be done possibly by November 4th. They are a little ahead of schedule, depends on when they can get the deck poured. Then the only other project we have local is County B, on the state portion of it from Highway 12 up to 94. Plan to switch traffic back to normal lanes by October 2nd. And then have the median lanes closed to finish the lighting and any other work that needs to be done, early November completion. As far as traffic issues at Highway 12 and 390th / Double B intersection on the south side, we worked with Dunn County and had them pour in the pork chop island so we can get the stop sign out where it needs to be. When they reconstructed that intersection, I don't know, probably what, 8-10 years ago. You know, they just made it so wide. We still had some crashes there, so we get the stop sign out in that pork chop and get a little better visibility to the stop sign. So hopefully we don't have any more failure to stops out there. Highway 12 and Highway 25 and Double B, both intersections. We've got our intersection control evaluations completed. We're going to begin reviewing them and send them to central office for their approval. Once those are approved, then we will start looking at possible safety funding for roundabouts there. I don't know if we can get them at both, but we'll kind of see. The northern one is going to cost a little more because of the west approach has that goofy intersection. So it might take a little bit more right away and some different configurations on how to get all those legs in place out there. But right now we're looking at if we can get safety funding, we'll be submitting for that in the spring now instead of the fall. We ran out of time getting all those reports and stuff done. But so if we do get funding for that, we will end up gapping both those intersections with the Highway 20 with the 2026 resurface out there. So there'll be a couple gaps. We wouldn't construct the turn lanes then if we're going to put in roundabout. So I'll kind of keep you guys updated as we know more on that. And then the last traffic thing, on Highway 12 and County H and Elk Mound, we're scoping a resurfacing project through Elk Mound, and obviously we identified there's a safety concern at that intersection. Had a lot of crashes with failure to yield out there due to the skew and sight distance issues out there. So I've been working with Dunn County and the Village of Elk Mound to convert that to an all-way stop. So Highway 12 would stop. just working on some of the paperwork and if everything goes through, we can get that implemented as soon as possible. That's all I got. Question for me?
Did you have to do with the changing the timing of the lights at 12:29 B?
What needs to be changed?
No, they did get changed. They're now 100% protected.
That has to do with the construction.
Okay.
Once everything gets put back to normal, then we'll go back to the old phasing.
I was just curious, some of those timings are,
Yeah, I think it's probably pre-timed, maybe. I don't know if everything can be actuated based on the way we've got everybody in the northbound lanes, so I don't know. But I can check with our,
one of the things that we've seen more particularly in the afternoon is east and westbound 12:29, you're getting, I think one time my wife said 25 cars stacked up. Going westbound, probably going eastbound, right around between the 3 and 5 p.m. Now I know it changes later on in the day where no longer go is 100% protected. It goes back to both ways. I just didn't know if they were looking at readjusting the timing.
no, I guess I hadn't heard anything about it, so I can talk to our civil engineer and see if he can make any adjustments out there.
Yeah. I was just curious why they went to the 100% protected.
Yeah, it has to do
The
with,
configuration.
yeah.
That's right.
Any other questions for Chad? We go on to the DOT Law Enforcement Liaison, Todd Rasmussen is online.
I'm here too.
Oh,
I gotta share my screen,
I
so,
haven't met you.
well, thank you. Good morning. It's the first time I've been to this meeting. I'm taking over for Rick Oleg, who decided to retire again and go on vacation, so lucky him. A little bit of background myself. This year I retired from Waback County Sheriff's Office. I was a chair of our Highway Safety Committee meetings for about 13 years. And when I said in January that this was my last meeting that I was going to attend, Rick was sitting down to my left and asked me if I could stay over them after the meeting a little bit. And fast forward, here we are. So, and I'm happy to be here too, because I'm really enjoying this. I'm getting the hang of it. I believe this is my last meeting of this quarter. So we'll see how this one goes. So I'll try to, the hardest part will be trying to share my screen, I think. There you go. So I'll just go over my PowerPoint here. This is the weekly year-to-date fatal crashes in the state of Wisconsin. Currently, or as of Monday, September 16th, we had 335 crashes. In those crashes, 386 people have died. That's statewide. Compared to last year, the number is right underneath it. 365 crashes with 398 fatalities. A little bit lower, but not low enough if we're looking for a big change. Compared to the 5-year average is 366 crashes with 397 fatalities. As of September 19th, fatalities in Dunn County. I found 3 of them. 3 crashes with 3 fatalities, one in February 25th, May 18th, and July 17th. I believe the one we'll be talking about today was the one on July 17th, 240th at 710th Street. So I did go back and look in that area. That's what's up on the screen, the map. Did a 5-year look back of that area. If there's a large amount of crashes, maybe there's something we can do to, eliminate the crashes or, slow them down. But I found 1 crash at this location in 5 years. So I'm like, just to double check my work, I went back 10 years and I think I only found 1 more crash just down the road.
I could drive you to that intersection and you'd see why there's no crashes there.
Well, I did use the Google map and hopped on the street and I could tell it's pretty rural and. So Dunn County crashes, so I'm using the true second quarter, April through June of this year compared to the 3-year average. For example, all crashes. This year, we had 127 in Dunn County compared to the 3-year average of 133. The numbers are on the left-hand column. On the right is percent change, plus or minus. So that 127 crashes is a 4% drop in crashes compared to the 3-year average. Minor serious injuries are down significantly, 22 and 31%. Fatalities are up 50%. I know the numbers show 1 and 1 for fatalities. When you start doing 3-year average, that's how that comes, the percentage are like that. Driver behavior, aggressive 10 compared to 13, which is a 23% drop. Impaired driving is about the same or is the same. Distracted driving is down 11%. Within that same time frame, the units, motorcycle down a little bit, commercial motor vehicle is down, bicycle is up 50% or 2 from 1. Crash flags. Winter road is down 86%, work zone is up. Deer, I did not factor into this. I can run that again if you want deer, but most people don't want to see deer. And I will say at Winter Road, this county, I do 15 counties. This county and only one other county, Winter Road is down. Everybody else is up 2, 3, 800% for April to June. I look back, I think early April, I think the first weekend, there was rain and it got down into the 20s. So everybody's crash data is really skewed to show a 2, 3, 400% increase in Winter Road for April through June, but that was the reason. And if anybody has questions, just stop me and while I'm talking. All the data that I just presented is from community maps. Everybody here on the commission can go to it. It is open to the public. You can get a login if you're on this commission to go into the more advanced area. However, once a month, there's a community virtual office hours for community maps. If anybody just wants to know how it works a little better or has specific questions, you can log on to that with that address or the QR code. And you can just sit and listen, or you can ask questions. That is, I believe, the second Monday of every month. So Chad, if you have anything to throw out here, this is collective studies on countermeasures on the roadway that state engineers are doing to help make our roads safer. For example, the studies look at speed management, roadway departure issues, intersections, and all the bullet points you see, along with pedestrians, bicycles, and cross-cutting. Go over a couple of them. Pavement marking, they standardize the reflective epoxy markings and are going from 4 to 6 inches of the lane markings for better visibility. Now that's on the state roadway system, but the locals are not required to do it at this point. And I was at one committee meeting, the highway shop was there, and they said, well, it's a 50% increase in cost for their paint. And for them to change their truck over, I believe he said it was $20,000 to $30,000 to switch their truck over just by making that lane or that line 2 inches wider. The rumble strip policy, now they're allowing center line rumble strips on 11 and 12-foot travel lanes. And now they're, at least in Minnesota, and I was corrected, now in this area of Wisconsin, you're starting to use mumble strips instead of rumble strips. Essentially, you can hear it inside the car just as well, but outside the car it is quieter. I don't know if anybody at the local level have gotten complaints from neighbors that this is too loud in front of my house. Most places have gotten those complaints. These mumble strips are hopefully the best of both worlds. Quieter outside, but still grab your attention. For they're ground differently, so they're not as rough, they're maybe more rounded, the grooves are. So the issue with cross-cutting, using more lighting, pavement friction management, more of a high friction surface. The state of Wisconsin continued use of, for pedestrian bicycles, high visibility crosswalks, pedestrian hybrid beacons. I don't know if there's any in the city of the hybrid beacons on crosswalks. Generally, you see those in a high traffic and a high pedestrian area. You get both of those. It's a bigger square light over the traffic lane. I think there's 3 lights in it.
Eau Claire has one at Menominee Street down by the old Dairy Queen for the Sonotape. That's coming out once they put the underpass in. Otherwise, we got one up in Ashland, so there's not very many of those.
Yeah.
In this part.
I was in Allegheny a month ago, and I think they're just putting their first one in.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah. Intersections. I think you talked about a roundabout just a little while ago. The state has continued to implement the roundabouts. 305 have been built just on the state highway system as of January of this year. I think if you had the local areas, I think that probably triples, I don't know. Dedicated left and right turns at intersections. On this. They're looking at intersections with divided 4 lanes, making a more U-turn or a R-cut, J-turn, so you can only turn one way. You come upon the highway, you can only turn right. And if you wanted to go left, you'd have to go down, turn it back around, or U-turn essentially, and come back. That's to stop the angled crashes, the T-bones, and hopefully keep cars on the right side of the roadway, so the wrong way drivers. Accompanying that, however, is, find it again. So everything I brought up is, this is the paper on the study. Each page, this is for roadway departure, what you see on the screen, and it lists the study, it's in the middle. What I wanted to bring up here, reference the roundabouts. I'd always told years ago that roundabouts, you may have just as many, if not more crashes, but there'll be slower speeds. You won't have the T-bone. According to this study, however, there's a 68% reduction in total crashes and 88% reduction in injury crashes. That's what the study proved. So I will send this so everybody can peruse this at their leisure. It's quite intensive here, so I don't know if we have time to do that. There is no new laws. I think the politicians are just coming back into House and the Senate. There's legal updates. I won't go over the Wisconsin Supreme Court one. However, at the governor's conference on highway safety, I've tried to make notes. I'm not an attorney, so talk to your own district attorney. The one that most people should worry about is Smith versus Arizona. The US Supreme Court, which was decided this year. Essentially, it's a confrontation clause. It's going to deal with our lab of hygiene. So if you get an OWI, you send the blood in, get tested, comes back, goes to court. The defendant has a right to, they always send a lab tech or the supervisor. According to the Supreme Court ruling, they have to send the lab tech that tested it, not just anyone from that office. So whether that means we're gonna have to have more lab techs, the lab techs we're worried about if they retire, how do they come back? And I would say people in law enforcement know that you're not done until your cases are done. So maybe that's the same with them. This has not worked through the courts yet. So they don't, Tara Genswell from the state AG doesn't know how our courts are going to interpret that. They could, just to say a machine tested, the lab techs don't. Whether that floats the courts or not, they don't know. Speed-related crashes in Wisconsin. About a month ago, the state put on a speed reduction week. I think State Patrol's a big part of that. I don't know if that was throughout the whole state but they had directed targeting. I'm only keeping this slide up there. This was made for the public to put out on a blast, if you will. I kept this in here mainly because 16,401 speed-related crashes occurred in the state of Wisconsin in 2023 and last year. In those crashes, 106 people were killed and over 6,600 were injured. And probably to nobody's surprise, 62% of all speed-related crashes are male drivers. Also, 21% of those speeding drivers were young male drivers, 16 to 24. Child Passenger Safety Week. This is not from the state of Wisconsin. This is more, I got this from the federal government. So they're pushing this week, September 15th through the 21st, Child Passenger Safety Week, keeping this in here because of a total of 756 children, 14 and younger, were killed in passenger vehicles in 2022, and more than 120,000 were injured. Passenger car seats reduce the risk of fatal injury by 71% for infants and 54% for toddlers. So properly installed seats reduce the fatals, 71% for infants and 54% for toddlers. I just thought that large number was pretty striking. And this just shows a breakdown of the LELs, which is myself, and then top and bottom of the state, you show Dave Gress. For both of them are the people that help you with the grants. In this case, one person. They're hiring both spots because Dave Gress took a different job also. But he's doing both jobs. He's on community maps now. But he has a phone number to call if you have questions. Or if anybody has questions, get a hold of me and I can find the answer to. I believe, well, one other thing, speaking of community maps, if you have a specific data question, you have large numbers you want, you can't quite find it on community maps, you can use the attached email address and they would be happy to help you collect your data. Especially if you can't find the exact data on community maps. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Todd.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions for Todd? All right, appreciate the presentation.
Well,
You being here. Next up is Railroad. Is Mike Marks here?
He's not.
All right. And then Travis Mayer, Highway Safety Board.
Since the last meeting, the Dunn County Sheriff's Department has handled 65 crashes. 22 of those were multi-vehicle crashes, 43 single vehicle crashes. 20 of those crashes had injuries. One was a fatal, which I'll cover here in a little bit. And then 26 people were injured in those injury crashes. There was 8 alcohol-related crashes where a OWI arrest was made. Of those, 7 had injuries and 8 people were injured. Update first on the fatal from earlier this spring up on 145th Street. There was a motorcycle fatality. The blood did come back on that at a 0.154. The drug panel is still pending. So that kind of explained a lot of what we had there. There wasn't a lot of other explanation for why that motorcycle left the road, but that would be a major contributing factor. Then the next fatality was on 710th Street at 240th Avenue. I'm going to pull up a couple pictures of that. This was a elderly driver from that area, which I believe is a contributing factor to the crash. A download of his vehicle showed that he never came to a stop in that intersection. I'm assuming he traveled that road on a very regular basis and probably very seldom came across a vehicle there. As you can see on the picture, there's clear visibility. He would have been traveling on 710th Street southbound, so he would have been coming right through here. Very open visibility. Log truck was traveling here, and he pulled out in front of the log truck. Another contributing factor to the severity of the injury is he was not wearing his seatbelt. There's very little intrusion in that vehicle. If I can get this thing to cooperate, I'll pull up the next picture. You see there's very little intrusion. All intrusion is on the passenger side. Generally, this amount, in my experience, would not result in a fatality. However, with an elderly driver, it certainly can. But I think wearing a seatbelt would have been a major contributing factor because he was thrown to that passenger side, which resulted in major injury. With that said, we are just finishing up a seatbelt grant that ran the entirety of from October 1st goes until September 30th of this year. That was a $50,000 grant to work overtime. We are going to spend pretty much all of that up. We've had a lot of shifts out there, a lot of enforcement. Hopefully, we're making a difference. But enforcement is only one piece of it. As we know, constructing the roads to try to prevent these injuries is probably just as big of a piece of it. We also had a seatbelt grant that ran through the summer months from May until September. We're finishing that up as well. And that was about a $11,000 grant, I believe. So we'll get that finished up. We're working that in conjunction with the Boyceville Police Department, the Elk Mound Police Department, and Colfax Police Department. All agencies are able to join into these, and I just got notified Friday of last week that we have been selected for a OWI enforcement grant starting on October 1st and running through September 30th of next year. So I'm putting the application together on that, and we'll assess what we can do with that grant and hopefully make a difference in reducing OWIs. As you see, a lot of these OWI crashes are resulting in injuries. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Travis. Anybody have any?
Pictures they can hopefully see.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments? I'm gonna go to the highway department. Dustin.
So I'll go over my project updates after I have Nicole present. So Nicole has been invited with SRF Consultants to just kind of give us a status update of our Safe Streets for All grant that we were awarded with Eau Claire and St. Croix County to perform a traffic safety analysis of the county. So I'll hand it over to Nicole.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dustin. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, so like Dustin had mentioned, I'm going to talk about your Dunn County Safety Action Plan and just provide an update on what we've done to date with public engagement, our safety analysis, as well as the equity analyses. So jumping right in. Oh, okay, there we go. So we were at the county fair in July and speaking with community members, getting their thoughts on biggest traffic safety concerns in order to help us identify projects in the future of the plan. We engaged with over 80 community members, and one of the boards that we had, you'll see on the screen here, is an exercise with the dots where we asked folks to go through and identify their biggest traffic safety concern. And so the majority of the dots you'll see are under speed and aggressive driving, distracted driving, intersections, both pedestrian and bicycle, as well as alcohol and impaired driving. And that last column, we also asked in general if there's other comments outside of those categories. Other comments came out that they're wanting a roundabout at 25 and D. Needing more bike lanes received a couple votes as well. Tailgating was also an issue that community members identified, and sleepy driving was also a comment that came up as well. In addition to that engagement activity at the fair, we also had a countywide map and surveyed community members as well to identify specific locations. We asked that there's focus on the county system, but of course we received comments on all systems. The survey was open from the end of July through Labor Day, and we received over 50 comments. And of those 50 comments, 30 were on the county system. And then just an overall summary of those comments, they were predominantly on County Trunk Highway D, C, B, B, and B. And we heard commonly throughout that there were rough roads, speeding vehicles were also an issue. We heard about dangerous rush hour traffic. Specific intersections as well were of concern. So intersections from County Trunk Highway C and County D, as well as with State Highway 25, just identifying slower speeds. Drivers don't pay attention to pedestrians. At H, desire for a stop sign. We also heard at BB, again, rough roads. With the intersection of Highway 25, people are using turn lanes for passing and can be very difficult to cross in a car or other ways. At that intersection of CT and F and State Highway 25, it feels unsafe. So again, just different items that we would hear outside of what the crash data would show us that just help supplement and provide that story of how people are feeling and as they drive, bike, or walk across your system. In addition to the public engagement, one of the pieces of our safety analysis with the existing conditions is that we developed a high injury network. And this looks at where the highest concentrations of your fatal and serious injury crashes are occurring. We removed out the freeway because, again, the majority of the crashes you'll see will be dominant on there. This includes, there's 3,954 crashes total, but again, this high injury network only looks at fatal and serious injury crashes, which you had 135 between 2019 and 2023. And then the majority of those high risk crashes here you'll see are predominantly along Broadway Street, Menominee. There's also on US Highway 12. And then there's also this little piece right here on County Trunk Highway H. With that, one of the exercises that we do is overlay those comments that we received with the high injury network just to see and identify if where the majority of comments are coming are concentrated on the high injury network. And we did see that that was a similar trend that we had identified in other communities as well. So your community members are identifying that your most high-risk locations or that feeling of risk and safety issues are on those areas with the highest crashes. And then from there, our existing safety analysis also included, which this were shared at our last committee meeting that I attended with you all. We went through those emphasis area tables that identified the 5 emphasis areas that were highest in the county. And so that was lane departure, speeding, intersection, inattentive driving, and motorcycle were all of those that were those highest contributors of crashes. In addition, we also developed these crash trees. So at our last meeting, I had the one that you see on the left-hand side, and that is the county rural crash tree. And then we also went through, since that time, developed a township, rural, a city, rural, urban, 2-lane undivided, divided, and non-motorized. And some summary information that we gathered from there is, so there was 135 fatal and serious injury crashes that occurred between the 2019-2023, and then 82 crashes were those on the state system. We also removed the animal-related crashes. There were 9 of those, and then looked down at how many were between your county and township versus the city. And then identified that for the county and township fatal and serious injury crashes, there were 43. They were all on your rural system. There, 3/4 of them were all segment related versus intersections. And then from that, the majority, 90%, were all lane departure and run off the road versus head-on crashes that we see In your more urban crashes, there were 10 fatal and serious injury crashes that occurred during that 5-year time frame. Unlike the county and township rural, the city identified rural weren't as dominant. They're about 50-50 between segment and intersection related crashes. And a lot of them were more so categorized in the other crash categories. So we'll look into that specifically to identify what's going on in those locations. For your urban 2-lane, we saw the majority of those were on intersection related, and they were uncontrolled intersections. And then for urban divided, you had no crashes, and urban non-motorized, you only had 1 bicycle crash. So then in addition to that existing crash analysis, we're going through and doing a systemic safety analysis, which is more of a proactive approach. So it's looking at characteristics of the roadway and looking at where those locations are in reference to high risk risk factors that we're identifying. So where a crash is occurring, what are the specific contexts that are occurring, and then identifying those locations within your county to predict where crashes and those fatal and serious injury crashes may occur in the future. And so we've looked at 698 intersections, 139 segments, and over 900 curves. We've collected data for all of those, which we'll hand over for you guys to have. It includes lane width, edge risks if there's trees or large ditches in the areas, all of your signage that are along the road as well. And our next steps are to identify those specific risk factors. We'll locate your high priority locations and then provide recommendations for potential countermeasures. So those are our next steps. And then finally, our equity analyses that we're doing. So this is something, it satisfies federal grant requirements. So future SS4A, if you go through and want to identify some projects to apply for, as well as to help prioritize those future safety infrastructure funding. So those projects that we recommend, this is just something that you can use to help prioritize those locations. And our goal is to find those inequitable communities within the county. Whoops. USDOT tools. So there are 2, it went back again. There's an ETC Explorer tool. So this one uses data to display disadvantages in 5 areas. It's transportation, social, vulnerability, climate risk, environmental burden. Oh, I don't know if you guys are hearing me or if I keep freezing.
Yeah, you're freezing.
Oh, do you guys hear me by chance?
Can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. I will continue on. I'm almost through. And so we looked through the ETCE tool. It's what you see here on this screen. These tools are, again, they're looking at national percentages. And so typically we've seen that counties and cities, there aren't locations that always are shown on there, but you will see in this specific tool that there is a little location in our census tract where Dunn County does pop up. So we'll use that information. And in addition, we also look at the CEJST tool, which I didn't have on the screen, but there were no locations that showed up on that specific USDOT tool. So what we like to do is dig in a little bit deeper. We use the same equity indicators that are identified using the ETCE tool and gather all of the census tract information for the county, and then we compare it to the state's data. And then if you are 10% either above those percentages, then those can be identified as disadvantaged communities. So it's looking at when you're, instead of that national percentage, look more of those apples to apples comparison with your state and looking at that. So this is our next step. We've completed all of the census tract mapping for the county, and then have also pulled all of the information for the state. So now we're just in that comparison process, and then we'll identify or develop a map that shows within Dunn County which census tracts are identified as disadvantaged communities. And so our next steps, again, just as a summary, we're going to be incorporate those findings from public engagement to those recommended projects. We'll also look at, completing that equity analysis, developing that final map for you, and then completing your proactive systemic analysis. So identifying those risk factors, developing those prioritized lists and project lists. So that will be at our next meeting that you guys have. Any questions?
Yeah, Nicole, the data that you received from the public on the safety action plan, is that still gonna be open and looked at for people to continue to respond to?
So we have it that on Labor Day, we did remove that, but we could have it continue on, and if you guys would like. So that is, but as of now, we've kind of stopped it on Labor Day is so that we can have a hard stop and start to look at the data and summarize what's going on.
Okay, because I just pulled it up and I could do it right now if I wanted to.
Oh,
That's why I was asking.
Mary, thank you so much. That should not be that way. Any other
questions?
questions?
I don't see any. Thank you, Nicole.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. I will leave for your guys' meeting. Perfect.
Thanks, Nicole.
But yes,
So I'll just give a little update on just the highway projects. So like Chad mentioned, County Road B project in particular, we're looking at shutting County Road B down at the railroad tracks once again, on October 1st and 2nd. The reasoning for this is due to the traffic signal installation at that intersection, as well as coordination with the railroad signals. So there's gonna be a lot of timing and testing being done on those 2 days, to make sure that we can open it up to the public. So like I said, October 1st and October 2nd, B will be shut down from the railroad tracks from Badger Drive to Packer Drive. For those 2 days, and hopefully we can get everything working properly and open it up. Like Chad mentioned, we're looking at possibly late October 2nd for opening up northbound and southbound traffic. In particular, the outside lanes, the inside lanes will probably be still shut down due to median restoration and curb and gutter and all that good stuff. But I will be posting out a public notification about the closure. Other than that, everything's going well. Obviously, they're still working on the southbound lanes currently in intersections, a lot of staging going on. Yeah, October 3rd is probably the day we're shooting for, that everything will look a lot different. So other than that's all I have.
thanks, Dustin. Anybody have any questions? Look like it. I don't see Randy online for the mini chair of the highway, but that's all right. We'll move on to the Menominee Police Department.
All right, thank you. Since our last meeting, crashes overall have been down in the city as compared to last year, not significantly, but overall throughout compared to 2023, 2024, we're down about 50 crashes overall in the city. The only thing I can really pull from that, it looks like our numbers were quite less in January through April. I'm assuming due to the weather, not as much snow and ice. But even so, since our last meeting, crashes compared to 2023 are just down slightly. We had 5 personal injury crashes since our last meeting, and those were all relatively minor as compared to 7 at that point last year. Most of our traffic crashes are non-injury crashes, a few hit and runs, just a handful of car deer accidents so far. That's all I have.
Any more head hits on South Broadway by Quick Trip? That's true. We had a rash of those.
Yeah, I don't think we did have a pedestrian accident that was minor, but it wasn't there.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't.
I know that crosswalk was an issue for a while, and I just didn't know the start coming back going on.
Yeah, I think our issues consistently outside pedestrians are those North Broadway and Pine, North Broadway and Oak, and Summit and Crescent and Broadway there. I think roundabouts are probably in the future at 2 of those intersections, if not 1 for sure, way down the road, and the city's talking about it, but I don't know.
At one time, there was a conversation that Randy and I had about putting a roundabout at Pine and Broadway. But now we've got that safety project next year where we're basically redoing pretty much the whole intersection, trying to get neutral offsets on the northbound, southbound left turns. And then changing the Pine approaches so that we get better visibility for left turn, you know, when you're eastbound making that left and things like that. So there's a big project next year to redo that intersection. So not to say that we couldn't put a roundabout in there someday, but
I just know there was talk about it. I think the last time I heard from city administration, that had been a while.
and maybe Dave has some better ideas.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Next up, Wisconsin State Patrol.
Since the last meeting, we've handled 39 crashes, 10 have had injury involved. We also did some aircraft details on the interstate for speed. We're averaging 10 stops per hour when we're out there with the airplane. The one speed detail, the average speed was 85.9, with the highest speed that day being 90.5. That day, 22 stops, or 58% of the stops were at 15 miles an hour or higher. The other detail, the average speed was 87.7. The high speed that was 99.3. And that day, 70% of the stops were at 15 or higher over, and 15% of the stops were at 20 or greater over the legal speed limit. So that's all I got.
Anybody have any questions, comments?
Do you have any detail on that whole bus incident on B with?
No, it's still not going to, investigation's still not going on that one. So
All right, thank you. Let's see, Jamie McDermott. Go on to school administrators. Bill Yinkst.
Good morning, everyone. Not too many things. This time of the year, I always tell our drivers, and we talk about as school districts, the sun is really shining straight down the eastbound roadways. Can be blinding in the morning. We did have a truck and trailer hit our amber flashing lights where our crossing guard stands out here on Highway 40. Happened like 4:30 in the morning the other day, and a few cameras around that vicinity picked it up, but I have a feeling it was somebody passing through, so a little damage to that. It's operational, but needs to be repaired further. Just this morning, this is not Dunn County, this is actually Chippewa County, but over our buses are, I don't know if you heard about a tractor accident this morning. It was a drive your tractor to school day today, evidently in Bloomer. And it was very foggy on Highway 40 over that way this morning, and a car hit a tractor, and it sounded like there were 2 students on a tractor. At least one was airlifted and maybe both, but just pointing that out because there are hazards out there on the roads that just pop up that nobody's aware of and causes some problems. So that is all I have, barring any questions.
Any questions? Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Member from the county board, the chair, Kelly McCullough, anything to add?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. And Ryan Howe, the community member.
Say, I'll jump on for Ryan. This is Bill Yingst again. Ryan texted me and said that he can see and hear everybody, but he doesn't have an ability to speak. So if that's still the case with Ryan, I'm just passing that on for him.
All right, thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
If you get your audio back, Ryan, just let us know. We'll come back to you. On to the medical emergency reports. Anybody from the Red Cross here? Yes, I see Jenny. There you go, Jenny.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. So just want to share our response update. So we closed out our fiscal year on June 30th. So in Dunn County, we assisted 13 households, and that came to 34 individuals last year with residential fires. And those incidents that we responded to, that the cities and the towns included in Boyceville, Colfax, Menominee, Bridgeland, and Wheeler. And then so far for this fiscal year, so from July 1st through as of today, we have received 3 calls in Dunn County, assisted 4 households, totaling 13 individuals. And the calls that we have received had come from Elk Mound, Menominee, and Boyceville. So that's kind of trending for us as a standard number of calls, pretty average call for Dunn County around this time of the year. So we tend to see a little bit of an increase when the cold weather picks up. So, and that really is all I have.
Thank you, Jenny. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Next, I'll go to first responders. And here. Anybody from the Mayo Clinic online? I don't think so. And Jeff Robb is here from the Health Department. You're up next.
Thanks. So I think the only update I have is, ready or not, it's flu season. I know our community, our health nurses are going to be out in the community doing some flu clinics. If you're a Dunn County employee, I think they've got some scheduled in October for some drop-ins. So if you have any questions on flu shots and whatnot, we'll get you some more information if you need that. I think that's all we have for today.
Any questions on that? I don't see any. Thank you, Jeff. Melissa, any updates on disasters?
Hi there. I think we're happy to report that through the storm season, Dunn County kind of lucked out compared to a few of our surrounding counties. We did have that, what they kind of wanted to call a F0 tornado, and then they kind of backpedaled on that a little bit. That was kind of over by Elk Mound. It was in a field and damaged some trees kind of by the Elk Mound High School. But no, we fared very, very well through the severe weather season. So nothing else.
It's good news. Thank you, Melissa. Anybody have any questions? Anything from the highway traffic safety side to add?
No, the only other thing I would add is at the governor's conference, I kind of went over best practices for these meetings. I think we've had a very good turnout. What I would challenge everybody to think about is who else should we have at the table? I have invited the medical examiner's office, however, they weren't able to make it here, as I believe they're a big part of this when we have a traffic fatality. So if you guys can think about that, and if there's other people that you think should be here, let me know and I will try to recruit those people.
I was just wondering to have some representation with the city, like the streets, like Dave Schofield or something. Would be nice.
That was gonna be my suggestion.
That would be good, yeah.
It's a pretty good sized city, you know.
Yeah. Seems like a lot of, not saying issue is, but it's a lot of city stuff.
I'm gonna open it up to all the small municipality police departments too, and remind them of this as part of the grants that we're working on. It says right in there that they should be pending these as well, so I'll open that up to them too.
Some of them have, a representative from, driver's education. A lot of places have, at least one representative from there, especially if it's information going back to younger drivers.
That is of interest. I think Jake Biscoe is probably still, yeah, he's one of the major ones around here for sure. I forget the name of the company.
Dunn, right, drive
Dunn, right?
I don't know if it makes sense to have anybody from the scout leave. How many have you got? Thank you, Travis. Is any class here from the fire department? I don't think so today. Don't see anybody from extension either. That's the list. Next meeting will be December 20th at 9 a.m. We'll be here again. And any other announcements before we adjourn? We all set. Looks like that's it. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Stop the recording. Thank you guys for joining us.